Welcome back, it's me, Lou, and I'm here for another unboxing and review. And today we are jumping into the world of tabletop wargaming. And I have right here Warhammer 40,000 Ultramarines Marneus Calgar with Victrix Honor Guard. So if you've been watching my YouTube channel for some time now, you'll know that I've been kind of dipping my toes into the world of Warhammer, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So prior to the pandemic, I started picking up a couple of miniatures, and I just paint them in my free time. But as soon as the pandemic kind of like went into full gear and we went into lockdown, I kind of went, I don't know, all in, and I just got pretty deep into the hobby of just collecting miniatures and painting them. I haven't actually played a game of Warhammer yet. I've known to play with. There's actually a couple of shops near me, and they have like, tournaments and play areas and stuff. But for me right now, I'm just really into the miniatures and exploring the fiction a little. The world of Warhammer, Warhammer 30k, Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Fantasy. The fiction is very, 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 very deep. It's like, it's so deep that for me it's overwhelming and intimidating. And as much as I'd want to learn about the fiction and dip my toes into it, I'm trying. I'll jump onto Wikipedia and some of the official websites and watch videos and stuff. It intrigues me, but as much as I like it, I'm really more pulled in by the miniatures. I love the art style. For me, Space Marines, they're a very iconic character. And I don't know, I think the designs are awesome. They kind of evoke this, it's almost kind of like these giant space knights in this crazy power armor, and I don't know, there's like little overtones of kind of like industrialism and goth and techno and everything. It just looks really, really cool. So yeah, I've been dipping my toes into Warhammer, collecting miniatures, painting miniatures. For those of you that are action figure collectors, you'll know that Bandai makes some premium Space Marine action figures. McFarlane Toys, they've kind of established their own little line of Warhammer toys, the past year. They've released like, I don't know, all sorts of crazy stuff like Necron Warriors, Space Marines, I think Blood Angels, and I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's very fun. The community is huge. Yeah, Warhammer's here to stay. It's been around for a long time, and it's just now that I'm kind of getting into it. So what we're looking at here, this is Marneus Calgar, and this is kind of like a small little mini box set that comes with 3 miniatures. So this is what he's considered a hero character. And a lot of these hero characters, they're a little bit pricier than buying like a box set of, say, like a tactical squad. I think with a tactical squad, you might get like 10 miniatures, and that might run you, I think, maybe like $40 to $50. I think. I'm just running that number off the top of my head. Whereas a dude like this, he comes with like 3 miniatures, but you're more so buying it for Marneus Calgar, and something like this might run like $35. So it's a little bit more on the premium end. In terms of like skill level, a miniature like this isn't necessarily aimed at the newbie or someone that's kind of like new to the hobby. But for me, it's like I was reading the comic book, because Marvel came out with a Marneus Calgar comic book, which is right here. And it's weird because I never knew that Marvel was dipping into the world of Warhammer. It kind of coincided around the time I was getting into it. So for me, it was a pleasant surprise because I'm a big comic book guy. And then, as soon as I found that Marvel's doing these Warhammer comic books, I was all on board. And after I read the first issue, I'm like, dude, I need to buy that hero miniature. So then I bought this. And this is kind of one of those things I set aside for a while because I'm like, I'm still kind of new to the hobby. And even though I've been customizing toys and painting toys since I was a kid, painting miniatures feels like a different thing to me, and I'm still very new to it. So my skill level is very, very at the beginner stage. So I bought this thinking that, you know, once I got to a certain level of, you know, when I felt confident enough in my skills and abilities as a painter and a modeler, I'm like, you know, I'll come around to this. Then I'll come back and I'll paint this. But for now, I was just really jonesing for it because, you know, I read the comic book and I was all hyped for like Marneus Calgar. I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome. I need his miniature, so I bought it and I set this aside. So this has been collecting dust for a while, but today we're gonna open it up and check it out. So let's do that. But first, let's take a look at the packaging. So here we are. This is a pretty small box. I'm guessing it's maybe about 6 inches by 4 inches, I think. It's kind of like, this is more of the modern Warhammer aesthetic for the package design. So what we have here is Marneus Calgar in the middle, and he's flanked by 2 Victrix honor guards on each side. On the spine, a little portrait of him. And on the back, so you kind of use these, like, if you're painting this model, you kind of use the box and the box art. It's almost kind of like a painting guide to tell you, you know, what color goes what and where. I mean, you could kind of just maybe, you know, use your own discretion and create your own color palette and color them however you want. But if you want to kind of remain true to the fiction and the game, especially since this guy is a space marine, you know, you kind of want to make sure that his color scheme is correct, or at least as close as possible. So you kind of use this photography in the back as a color guide. You know, it kind of highlights the important features, gives you an idea of what's going to be red, what's going to be blue, what's going to be gold. It's letting you know here that you're going to need some nippers to take the pieces off the sprues. The paintbrushes indicate that you're going to have to paint this model. And over here with the dice is, you know, once you have them all painted up, he's ready to go onto the game board. Alright, let's take this guy out. So I'm going to remove the shrink wrap. Now, by no means is this model kit aimed at beginners. Warhammer, they do make miniatures that are aimed at, you know, someone new to the hobby or someone that just wants to kind of experiment and play around to see if they like it. So they make a couple of models, and those are kind of more so labeled, I believe, easy to build. Whereas this guy's a little bit more complex. So what we have here is we have 2 sprues. And a sprue is pretty much kind of like this plastic grid where all the pieces are fixed to. Over here we have the instruction manual. So Marneus Calgar with Victrix Honor Guard. So if you're kind of new to this could be very intimidating. It's going to tell you how to assemble the pieces. You know, it's just like any other model kit, really. And if, you know, as you progress in terms of your skill level, you know, there's certain things to keep in mind, like, you know, are you going to assemble this thing completely, then paint it, or are you going to work in sub-assembly? And, you know, disassemble certain pieces, and then paint certain items that might be harder to reach, and then, you know, assemble them in the end. So there's actually strategy involved when you put these guys together. And there's also a lot of freedom in these model kits. There's room for conversions, meaning you can like customize them. There's upgrade kits. So if you want to give them a different weapon or, you know, different helm or shield, you could do that. So one thing I'm noticing with Marneus Calgar, I'm not sure if there's, it looks like there's, oh, I take it back, there is. It's at the bottom. So there's also a decal sheet. These are water slide transfers. I hate water slide transfers. I hate stickers in general. I don't mind these, but I don't know. These always kind of stress me out. So if you're not familiar with the water slide transfers, these are the kind of stickers that you have to submerge in water. And then they kind of come off the sheet. And then you have to kind of just, you know, as the name implies, you slide them onto the model and kind of affix it to where it needs to be. Then afterwards, you apply like a matte medium over it just to like permanently adhere it to the model. Alright, I don't want to lose this. This is important. So here's the instructions. Alright, let's let's put this away and take a look at the actual sprue. There's like a piece of dust in here or something. Yeah. Alright. So what we get with this is we have 2 sprues. And it's funny, when you buy these things, you know, the photography, it's almost kind of misleading. You always get these and like, wow, that thing looks pretty big. But then when you assemble it, you know, it's only like half the size. And as you can see here, you know, like where's his legs? Let's find a good comparison. Alright, so here's the torso of, I'm trying to find the legs. Alright, so here's the torso of one of the guards. And I take it back. The guards are actually these are actually pretty close to the full scale of the figure. This guy's a little bit blown up, just a little bit. But yeah, don't be misled by the photograph. You know, this guy, once assembled, he's not going to be this giant. You know, if he was, that'd be awesome, but he's not. And then you also get the bases for the miniatures. So one thing that the easy to build line has that these other models don't is that the easy to build line is like, as the name implies, they're easier to build. So for the bases, they'll actually have like peg holes, and on the models, they'll have pegs, so you can just like socket them in. Whereas this, they give you a lot more freedom because they know that the more advanced modeler is going to do stuff with it. So, you know, you can fix this wherever you want. And as you can see here, you can decorate the base with like sand, grass, all sorts of, you know, greebling bits. So there's a lot of freedom involved with building these models. The pieces are very small. You can either remove the pieces using nippers, and if you don't have nippers, you can use an X-Acto blade or even a nail cutter. But if you're spending like $35 to $40 on this, you're really going to want to use like the proper equipment and you know, high-end equipment, because you really don't want to damage these models. They're really nice. As you can see, the sculpting on these it's like amazing. The sculpting's beautiful. It's really, the cuts are all super deep. A lot of high definition here. When I was growing up in the 80s, I was introduced to miniatures through like Dungeons and Dragons, and I think companies like Rail Partha released like these metal miniatures, and it was revealed much later that a lot of those miniatures had like lead in them, which is poisonous. So I think eventually they went to pewter, and now not that it's the standard, but it's more common. You know, a lot of companies are producing their miniatures like in plastic and like resin. So yeah, this is a really fun hobby. Something like this, you know, might take me like a weekend to put together and paint. You know, but if I wanted to take my time, you know, you really could. Okay, so that's what's inside the box. But lucky you, I actually have these actually put together and painted up, and we'll take a look at those in a minute. But before we do so, let's come back to this. So yeah, this model kit's based off of the hero character Marneus Calgar, and there was a Marvel comic book about him last year. It's really cool. It was kind of like my introduction to the fiction. I mean, I kind of looked up the fiction on the internet, but for me, this was kind of like me really getting into the fiction because it wasn't a novel, you know, and I actually read the entire comic book miniseries. It's written by Kieran Gillen, who's done, I believe, actually some of the novels for Warhammer. The artwork's by Jason Burrows. I'm familiar with his artwork. I think he did some work for Avatar Press back in the day. And it's colored by, I think, Java Tartaglia. So this story chronicles the origin of Marneus Calgar. There he is. He's looking badass. Yeah, it's awesome. For more than 10,000 years, the living corpse of the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne. The Imperium of Man is beset from every side. 1,000,000 space marines, the Emperor's angels of death, defend these 1,000,000 worlds. There is no hope, there is no peace, no love. In this grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And heroes like Marneus Calgar fight it. So the world of Warhammer 40k is just that. It's just all about war. It's very grim. It's very dark. It's not love and roses by any means. I mean, I think that's kind of the appeal of it too. So yeah, the comic book was awesome. I enjoyed this a lot. Um, and this comic book was kind of like, almost kind of like, not that it's my first foray into digital comic books, but when we went into pandemic and lockdown, that kind of for me ended like 30 plus years of going to the comic book shop and buying like real physical books. My comic book shop went into lockdown, and then I kind of resorted then to just buying these digital comics, and I never looked back. So I've been buying digital ever since, which I have no problem with because my favorite comic book shop that I've been shopping at for most of my life, they actually closed the physical shop down a couple of years ago. So it's like I had no problem just not buying comic books anymore physically, just because the people, my friends that owned the shop that used to run the store, they kind of shut down the physical store, and for me that kind of ended a chapter in my life. So I had no problem moving on to just the digital age. Yeah, fun stuff here. If you're into the McFarlane Warhammer toys, I highly suggest you pick up these Marvel comic books, because they're coming out with a new series that just came out last week. I forgot what it was called. I think it was like Sisters of Mercy or something. It's a great primer into the world of Warhammer, especially if you're just introduced through the action figures. All right, so let's get back to the models. All right, so as I stated earlier, lucky for you, I have these models already assembled and painted up. So maybe like 2 months ago, I was at my friendly local gaming shop, aka FLGS. That's the abbreviation the community uses, to describe gaming shops. So yeah, my friendly local gaming shop, they happen to sell like unfinished models that people don't want anymore, or finished models that they just don't use. So I was going through their bin of like, used models, and then someone apparently and recently sold, his unfinished box set of figures. So he had these figures assembled and primed, but he never got around to painting them. And then the shop was selling them. I'm like, dude, I have this already, but you know what? I want to buy these, and since they're already assembled, it saves me the trouble of putting them together. And I wouldn't mind just painting them for practice for when I open up my own, my actually the one I bought previously. So yeah, here they are. They look amazing. Let's take a look at them up close. Just give me a second here. I need to check something real quick. Alright, so what we have here is Marneus Calgar. So if you look on the box, there's two different head options. You either give him the head without the helmet, and he kind of has that like cyborg eye. But whoever assembled this model previously, he gave him the helmeted one, which is cool. I don't mind that, just because when I finally assemble this over here, I'm probably going to go with the maskless one. I tried to keep the color scheme in line with what's on the box, but I'm still at a beginner level, and since this guy assembled everything, so I have a theory on this. So I think around this time, whoever sold this to the shop, I think they sold like a good portion of their Space Marine army that was unfinished, and I bought a couple of other pieces. And when I was looking at them, just by looking at the amount of work that he already put into it, I could kind of tell he was at almost like the same level I was at, at very much a beginner level. So I'm thinking maybe this dude got into the hobby at the start of the pandemic, and then he kind of realized maybe it wasn't as fun as he thought it was going to be, because this stuff, I mean, I enjoy it, but it could be very, very tedious. And, I have a feeling that he assembled these models, primed them, and then he realized that it was going to be too difficult to paint. Like a lot of the details here, like his cape, it's a lot easier if you do this in sub-assembly, where you paint his cape first and then assemble the figure later. You know, I'm guessing the guy made the mistake of assembling both of these miniatures at once and then figuring he could paint them later. But, you know, with that, it's like I mentioned, you're not going to be able to get to paint all the details then, and that could be kind of frustrating, and it's also a little bit intimidating. So I'm guessing that's probably the case. He probably assembled these and realized he made a mistake, or maybe he realized he was in over his head and just, you know, sold them to the shop for like in-store credit. But for me, it's like it was an opportunity for me to practice painting them before I actually do the, you know, my own. So even though this thing was fully assembled, and I'm still at a very beginner level, I kind of try to stay within my lane. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, you know, teaching you how to paint and, you know, all these cool tricks. But if I try to apply that, I'm just going to get frustrated. So for me, it's like I know where I'm at in terms of my skill level. Let's just stick with that. And so that's what I did. I just kind of took my beginner skill level in terms of painting and applied it to this. You know, I didn't have any high hopes or expectations of myself to create this masterpiece, you know, that was going to win like a Golden Demon Award or anything. You know, I very much know that I'm at a beginner level. So I'm like, you know what, I want this to be a pleasant experience. You know, even if thing doesn't look as complicated as the ones I see online or the one on the box, at least I'll have a completed model. So I went ahead and just painted it. I followed this to the best of my abilities. In some cases, I kind of swapped out colors. Like instead of having the brown on this like flap in front, I just kept it red. I didn't have the water slide decals for this, so I just kind of free-handed the Ultramarines logo on the kneecap. So yeah, I'm very proud of this. It came out great. Yeah, so I like this a lot. This is such a fun hobby. And here we have the 2 Victrix Honor Guards. Really cool figures. Yeah, so the sculpting's really nice. The detail's really awesome. Now, in terms of painting, I can't really share too much of you know, how to paint or a tutorial because, like I said, I'm just a beginner. So I suggest if this interests you, you know, just go to like YouTube or Google and just, you know, look up, you know, Warhammer painting tutorials. Even Warhammer themselves, they have a YouTube channel. They actually offer painting guides and suggestions and tutorials on how to do this. It's a great hobby, especially in this day and age, you know, with, you know, stuff being locked down, or if you can't necessarily leave the house and do stuff, at least, you know, if you stay within the confines of your house and have some sort of hobby. You know, modeling and Warhammer and this, you know, it's really fun. You know, whether you're into playing the games or just assembling the models, it's a great time. Yes, I can't suggest this enough. So if I had to rate this model on a numerical scale between 1 and 10, I'd easily give it a 9. It's not for the beginner. You know, if you're just starting out, you know, go out there to your friendly local gaming shop and pick up one of the Warhammer 40k paint sets that come with like the 3 easy to build miniatures. It comes with like 3 Space Marines, and they're easy. They're press fit figures, and it comes with all the paints that you'll need to paint them up. And you know, I think it's like a $30 to $35 investment. So it's a good way to test whether or not you enjoy the hobby. And if you do, you know, there's like a giant catalog of miniatures you could buy and paint. So yeah, it's awesome. I mean, as you can see here, like here's what the standard base looked like, and then I kind of like decorated mine. Applied some sand, some grass tufts, a little small rocks. You know, I applied a wash and just really brought out the detail. I'm really hoping McFarlane starts making some of these hero characters for their Space Marine action figures. You know, that's something I really want to see. So yeah, okay, so let's begin to wrap this up. I kind of feel like I babble a lot in my videos, but this one I kind of feel like I was just babbling a lot of nonsense in all sorts of weird directions. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say other than, you know, this is a fun hobby. I enjoy this a lot. You know, depending on you know, how deep you wanted to get into it. you know, there's a reasonable price point to get involved in the hobby. You know, you could just buy, you know, a cheaper set, buy one of the beginner sets or the paint sets, you know, for under like 40 bucks. You can easily get into the hobby and just test the waters and see if you like it. And then if you do, it's like, you know, the sky's the limit. You know, maybe you'll get involved in what you actually want to play the game, or jump into the endless amount of fiction that's out there. You know, there's animated features, there's the novels, there's a buttload of video games. Yeah, the world of Warhammer, man, it's really something. So once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I greatly appreciate it. If you're new to my channel, thanks for checking this out. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thanks for all the support and comments. I greatly appreciate it. So until the meantime, take care.